everyone, welcome to Lauren's ScrapLot. My name is Lauren Urbonis and I am very excited to bring you episode 231 of my Show Me How It's Done series. I am very sorry that I couldn't meet with you last Tuesday, but I had a little guy with stitches who needed a little extra love and care, and for those of you who have asked after him, thank you so much for your follow-up. He is doing great after his oral surgery. I think this week, because we're on soft foods, he might be missing his smoothies and popsicle diet, but he is doing great and his mouth has healed up really, really well. So he's back to school for the last couple days, and then the kids are home all summer starting on Thursday this week. So let me get crafting with you. I am very excited to show off the Along the Lines stamp set. We're not doing any die cutting or fussy work today. We are doing a little fussy cutting, but I want to play with this tiger up here in the top. Make sure to stick around to the end though, because I have two other cards to show you using this suite that you can find on some of my past videos. All right, let me switch you over. Here is what we're doing today. So when I saw that tiger, I figured we needed to do a orange and black card. Of course, for those tiger aficionados, the debate is probably the fact that I have put a black on top of an orange base when I think tigers are actually black with orange stripes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't have any orange embossing powder. So we're going to create this card today. It is very, very easy to do. And in fact, you could replicate that kind of a card using any of the other images. So for a cake, you could do multicolored tones. For the puppy, maybe some browns and different tones of pecan pie and crumb cake, and the orcas, maybe some blues for some ocean waves. So maybe one day I will get around to doing that, but for the meantime, we're focusing on this friend little tiger, and we're going to start crafting together. So our card base is going to be Timid Tiger, if you haven't guessed that already. I have cut this at 4 1/4 by 11, and we put a score mark at 5 1/2 so that when you fold your card in half, it creates a standard A2 size card. So of course that's for those of us here in Canada and those of you in the US as well. And I know other countries you might want to adjust your card bases. So inside our card, I always like to have something to write on. I decided to go with a piece of Very Vanilla, and this is 4 inches by 5 1/4. Later on, we will come and stamp something on the inside of this card, but for now, I need my tiger stamp nice and clean and ready to do some of our next steps. So here we go, mounted to the inside. Okay, the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to start on the card front. That's going to be this black layer here, but don't attach it because we want to do a little bit of embossing on this piece. This is going to be 4 by 5 1/4 as well, but I'm stamping a sentiment up in the top there, and I like to do that when it's unattached. Just in case I make a mistake, I can easily flip this card over to the back side. So I decided I wanted to do a time to celebrate. This Along These Lines stamp set doesn't have any sentiments, so I just went to my shelf and I pulled in the Round We Go, because I figured we could use a variety of sentiments from this one, including happy birthday, this is your day, time to celebrate, to, from. The to you would fit, but the hip hip hooray is a little long. So completely up to you with the sentiment stamping here, but this set does have unassociated dies to what we're doing today in case you're interested in adding it to your collection. The time to celebrate, I am going to be doing embossing with, along with my little tiger. So I've got my Versamark sticky ink. That is our best friend whenever we're dealing with a embossing technique. And I'm stamping this just right in the top left-hand corner because my tiger is going to take out that top right. I know it's a little tricky to see, but you'll see it a lot more clearly as soon as I bring in my tray and my white embossing powder. Now, that tray, if you're interested in it, does come with a nice little brush. So if you've got anything hanging around the edges, you can easily wipe those off. You can also use some fancy little tweezers that come with this tray if you have something that's really small. Now this page is good because I can hold it in the bottom, not burn my fingers, but if I was doing like a little strip or a tag, I probably would want to use that set of tweezers as well. So I'm going to take this to my heat tool. I will be having the sound off so it doesn't blow your eardrums out, but you're going to watch for it to change from this kind of dull powdery look to something that's very, very shiny. And I'll try to pause halfway through to show you the difference. Okay, here we go. We can see I've done this left-hand side quite nicely. It's heated and it's melting. This right-hand side needs a little bit of work still. So we're going to turn this back on and keep going. The great thing with embossing is it's a very easy thing to fix if you haven't done all of it at once. You can just keep going, but of course we don't want to touch this until we're ready to actually be satisfied with the image. Okay, this guy can go on your card front now on just some flat adhesive. So tape or seal, whatever your preference is, that's going to go onto our card. And then we're going to move this out of our way once again because we need to do embossing once more. Okay, the next piece that we're going to emboss on is a piece of Timid Tiger. This measures 3 3/4 by 5. And please just keep in mind if you have missed any of the measurements for this card, they are listed in the description on the video, so you can easily go back and grab those. You can even see the entire supply list that I've posted as well. And for those of you in Canada, I do have my website listed at the bottom. Of course, if you do place an order that's $40 or more, you're going to receive a free stamp kit in the mail, which is always fun to do. And you get a video kind of like this to follow along with. Okay, on the top of your piece of Timid Tiger, this is where we are going to actually stamp our little tiger. So we've got our verse mark once again, and I have grabbed now the black embossing powder, and we're going to emboss this guy. Now in this stamp set, there are some single lines if you're interested, like so and like so. So that would make your life very easy if you were doing a larger image, but because we're actually just going to fussy cut around this tiger at the end of the day, I feel confident that I'm able just to continue on doing that by myself. So instead of white this time, I'm bringing the tray back and we're using black. These three, the black, the clear, and the white are all sold together. I was a little confused when I was looking for them. They're called the Basics Wow Embossing Powders now. And there's your little tiger. So again, just gently, gently tap, tap, tap. Get rid of the powder on the back. And we're going to heat this so it's a nice shiny black color. So bear with me for a second here. I think he looks great. And we are ready to do a little bit of fussy cutting around this tiger. There are not any dies that come with this stamp set. It's sold on its own, but that is okay because we have some trusty snips. When you're fussy cutting, don't go right up against the line. Try to give yourself a little bit of a buffer, and it will draw the eye to the space outside of your cutting zone rather than right to the image itself. So give yourself a little buffer around the tiger, and we're just going to gently follow kind of the curve of his body. There we go. And we'll just make our own little line here to the end of the card. Easy peasy. Okay, now for decorating with some stripes. So I started off thinking, okay, all I need to do is add some black and orange, or like just some black stripes to this card. It will look great. I'll just cut off the edges and it will all be fine. This could look great, but if you want to add a little bit of a wow factor to your cards, I'd like you to try ripping your paper. So we're going to take those away, and we're going to grab some scraps of Timid Tiger and Basic Black. These are 1 inch thick, and then these are scraps from my bin. So they are longer than the 4 inches I actually need, but that's okay. I can trim everything off at the very end. So they need to be at least 4 inches long. That would prevent you from having to do any trimming. But if you've got some of these in your stash, you're going to need about 4 of these of each color for the card. We're going to try ripping them. So here's a black piece. We're going to rip up towards ourselves, okay? And you can move this kind of just back and forth with your thumb so that you're not just ripping straight across. We don't want a straight line, but we want something with a little bit of character ripped up towards ourselves, and that will give you this fun little edge that you can now use on your card. So completely up to you whether you put the adhesive on the back of the black or onto the orange itself. Because my piece is longer than what I need, I know I'm only going to put adhesive in the middle here. And I'm going to line this first layer up just right underneath those paws. So the next thing I want to do is to grab a piece of Timid Tiger, and I'm going to repeat that same step. I'm going to do that on all of my pieces, just ripping back and forth. So we've got another piece here ready to attach. And of course, you can probably just pause this video right now if you want and rip all those pieces. We're layering this. Just give yourself as much of a border as you want between the 2 layers. And then to remember that one piece of black that was this match, we can use it too. It doesn't matter if it's a little bent, you can flatten it out. The other side still has that same ridge look. So we're going to repurpose that piece. One job for the price of 2 pieces. And add that as our next layer. Same for the orange one. Just smooth her out a tiny bit. It's okay if they've got a little bit of ruffle to them because it adds some texture. None of these are going to be perfect. In fact, I think this technique would be stunning if you had the 2-tone 12x12 cardstock that Stampin' Up! Released in the annual catalog, because not only would you get the color, you would get a lighter and white color on the inside of your ripped pieces. So for any of you who have ordered that or are considering ordering it, save these scraps because you can use them for a card like this in the future. So I'm just continuing down my card. I did say cut 4 of each of them, but you'll quickly see I probably only need 3, and that is just fine. Now I can make another card. This is a perfect card to hand out just for some encouragement. If you need some end of the school year thank you cards, you could do a thank you instead of time to celebrate. Or who knows, if it's for a teacher, maybe this is truly a time to celebrate because their school year is done. They've worked hard. Kids are now the parents' problem, which we are all so excited about, right? Okay, here we go. Because mine was a little longer than I needed, I'm going to grab my trusty snips and just use the edge of this cardstock piece to snip all these off. Of course, you could use your trimmer if you really wanted to, but I am okay just doing this. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to actually ruffle up the edge of this piece as well. So, you know how we added texture to the middle of this card? We're going to take our scissors. We're going to hold this with our left hand, or switch if you are left-handed, and we're going to rub the scissor blade on top of this edge. Do you see how it makes such a nice, beautiful, characterized edge as compared to the one that is very flat? I feel like it just ties this card together. So we're just rubbing. You can rub back and forth and keep going along those three sides. So the bottom, then the left and the right. Does make a little bit of mess, but come on, stamping should make messes. That's how you know you're having fun. Do, 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 do. All right. Get that corner, and I'm just gonna wipe that off. Here is my tiger. Now, I didn't ruffle up the tiger edges just because I did want that to be kind of a clean look, but if you prefer, you certainly can give it a try. On the back of this piece, I'm going to suggest you put dimensionals because it will make your image stand out a little bit more from the background. And one idea for you as well is if you didn't want a black background, you could use some of our fancy sky paper, like with a sunset from the Everyday Skies Designer Series paper. There's Thoughtful Journey Designer Series paper. There's probably some star gazing, or I forget the name of that one, paper that you have in your stash. You could have a different background, like a sunset or a night sky, instead of this plain black. But I just went with the two-tone because I figured it was fun and easy, and it did give me that full tiger look. All right, all the dimensionals are off. There should be a tiny border on the two sides and the bottom. And of course, you're going to have a larger gap on the top because we did chop a bunch of that off, but that's okay. It looks so fun and so great. So I hope that you give this a try. You could probably replicate the idea with something else you have as well. But if you're considering this stamp set, let me share with you. This was a very simple card that we did to celebrate the new catalog. I decided to use all four or five of the in colors with the orcas, and it was just a quick little strips of paper to kind of show off those new colors. Then if you want to get very, very detailed, this was a video that I did about a month ago, and I used this beautiful rose from the Along the Line set to create a Beauty and the Beast themed card. So make sure you're subscribed to my Lauren ScrapLot channel, because of course then you get notified when I do things like this. One last thing for you, along with the beautiful and fun cards that I do for Show Me How It's Done, I am participating in a challenge called the Great North American Stamping Challenge. We are now on week 4, but if you head to my YouTube channel, Lauren ScrapLot, this was the project that I did last week featuring the Scenic Adventure bundle, and it fits a Twix bar perfectly. You can also put a gift card in there, but it's a really nice little gift box that you can do and find the tutorial for as well. So please let me know what your favorite little image from this set is. Perhaps if there's more of you voting for something besides the 3 I've used, I will recreate a card in the future. So in the comments, put which image you would like to potentially see a card for, and I will see what I can do. See you next week, and see you on Thursday for episode 4 of the Great North American Stampin' Show. Bye, guys.